So we have a couple of questions here about generally hooking. I would say, first of all, check out the section on hooking in the day game product. There's a whole thing where I explain my Fred model: focus, relevance, emotion, decision. And I go in pretty good detail on that. So definitely check that out. I think the biggest reasons, though, why guys aren't hooking, there's probably a few fundamental things that are going on. Number one biggest mistake, failure to keep talking no matter what. All right, a lot of guys, as soon as there's any kind of rejection or lack of attention from the girl, they immediately just shut down, give up. And obviously, when you do that, you're not going to get the hook at all. So that's step one to hooking is if you're not getting the most positive response in the world, keep talking, plow through it. The very fact of continuing to talk actually shows a lot of entitlement. It shows that you believe you deserve a good reaction, and that's critical to actually getting a good reaction. So that's the first one. Keep talking no matter what. Second one, if you're not hooking sets, a lot of times it may be, I don't want to use the word toxic, but I want to say like your vibe is a little toxic. And that sounds insulting, but what I mean by that is that you may be too outcome dependent. All right, if you're going in and your intention in a set is to get something from the girl or to win at the expense of the girl losing, that kind of stuff, or to validate yourself through the girl, if those are your objectives, you're going to come across in sort of a needy light and a very negative light. And when that's the case, you're not going to get very good responses. If, on the other hand, your objective is to have fun or get to know the girl or find out if she's a cool girl for you, or just like amuse yourself, if those are your objectives, you're going to automatically have a much better vibe. And that better vibe is going to translate to a lot better reception, which will translate a lot to hooking. So those are two things that are not sort of directly related to hooking, but they are very key to hooking, because obviously if a set has a good vibe and is going well, it'll be very easy to hook compared to a set that is not going well and has a negative vibe. So those are big ones there. However, the next big thing that you need to do in order to hook the girl is make it relevant to her, which means that you need to either be perceived as value or threat. So you need to be willing to be a bit polarizing, be willing to express your opinion, and be willing to talk about her. And that last one is the most critical. Be willing to talk about her, and ideally the relationship between you and her. But if you just talk about random subjects like politics and sports and paintings or whatever the hell else it is, you're not really making a deep emotional connection, because it's very hard to get emotionally really involved in those subjects. But when you make it about you, about her, it's very natural to get emotionally involved. So that's another big thing. And a lot of guys just don't take that risk because it is a little more risky, right? It's a little more risky to bridge that gap and talk about you and her instead of just talking about random topics. But it's also absolutely necessary for sex. Remember, escalation of all kinds is necessary for sex, whether it be verbal, logistical, or physical. So that's extremely critical. And the last thing that most guys have a lot of trouble with in terms of getting the hook, getting the hook, is you need to shut up. You need to basically give her space to chase. If you're chasing too hard, she can't chase. So if you're constantly showing intent and constantly moving forward and constantly trying to escalate, even if she likes you, even if she's enjoying it, she'll be receptive but not responsive. Whereas if you leave some silence, especially at a high point, when things are going well, you leave a little silence, you pull back a little bit, now she's going to feel that she doesn't want the interaction to end, and she'll start gaming you, she'll start filling that silence, she'll start talking. Think about hooking as not like making her like you, but as getting her talking. You're motivating her to talk, motivating her to carry some of the conversation, because that's the most fundamental and basic form of the hook. And then from there, all the bigger hooks can kind of come into it. So that would be my general advice for those of you who are having trouble getting the hook, is to do those different variety of things. It's probably one of those things is where you're making a mistake.